Morgan Murtaugh. Welcome to the Daily Ledger. Graham Ledger has the day off. Our cover story, the geopolitical game of chess between Europe and the United States. German Chancellor Angela Merkel visiting with President Trump Friday at the White House. The two talking about global trade and security issues, including Iran, tariffs, and thawing relations on the Korean Peninsula.
Great honor to have Chancellor Merkel, and I will say that you can rest assured she was going to win that election, and congratulations on winning. And by the way, a formal congratulations. That's a great victory. We're working on a lot of different subjects, including trade, including NATO, including military of all types, and we have a really great relationship, and we actually have had a great relationship right from the beginning, but some people didn't understand that. But we understand it, and that's what's important.
We took some time to build the government, that is certainly true, but I thought it was very important on this first visit outside of Europe to come to the United States, to come to Washington in order to yet again underline that we wish to deepen our relationship further, and I hope and trust, and I'm very much looking forward to the very good talks that I trust we will have today.
We have a lot of great things happening, including potentially with North Korea, Angela, as you see. A lot of very positive things happened over the last 24 hours. We're in total touch with both North Korea and South Korea. We'll be setting up a meeting very shortly. We have it broken down to probably 2 sites now, 2 or 3 sites, locations, and hopefully we're going to have great success. We'll see what happens, but hopefully we're going to have great success. So President Moon and I are speaking, and we're speaking very much with South Korea and with North Korea. The relationships are building and building strongly, and this will be a great thing for the world. This will be a great thing for Germany, but this will be a great thing for the world. Angela and I have discussed this over the period of the last 15 months quite a bit, North Korea, the North Korean problem, and I think you're seeing that a lot of very positive things are happening.
Merkel's trip to Washington comes on the heels of French President Emmanuel Macron's visit. The messaging from the two leaders very much the same. America and Europe need to find compromises on key issues. Joining me now from Washington, D.C., spokeswoman for Americans for Limited Government, JessieJane Duff. Jessie, what is so important for our viewers to understand about this German chancellor visiting the White House?
Well, there's 2 significant aspects of this. First of all, the president addressed the trade deficit, and they were talking about if tariffs would be implemented upon the German products. A $131 billion trade deficit on our part is not acceptable. They also went on and talked about NATO obligations by Germany to ensure that they are carrying their weight in national security and defense. Oh, and a third thing, we have to wonder where Merkel's intentions are with the Iran deal. They've had over $4 billion in trade with Iran, and we have to wonder, is Germany more interested in the cash, or are they interested in humanitarian reasons to ensure Iran does not have nuclear capabilities?
Yes, and you mentioned the trade deficit on May 1st, a deadline quickly approaching on Tuesday. The deadline for European exemption from the president's steel tariffs is going to be enacted. How do you see this playing out?
Well, first, I really enjoyed Angela Merkel's answer when she was questioned, what does she expect? And she simply stated, that is up to the president. She did not try to interject any of her ideas or opinions. She surely acquiesced to the president of the United States. I think that she is more comfortable in her country now with her leadership, and she knew that showing the president that type of respect would probably get her further along than trying to have a boxing match in front of the press. What they do in private is going to be probably up to both of them. But she did indicate this is up to the president. He responded with the trade deficit has to end. And I think every country on the planet understands that tariffs have never hurt them. So why are in their trades? So why is it now that it's going to hurt Americans? I think Americans have to step up and do exactly as other countries have done to us.
Yes, and another decision that will be up to the president, the deadline is fast approaching, is May 12th, and that's just a deadline that the president set for himself on pulling out of the Iran nuclear accord. Do you see Germany standing behind the president on this?
I simply am questioning Angela Merkel's motives. She does seem to lean towards staying in the Iran deal. And when you look at it, it gives me the impression, and again, my impression, that she's more concerned with the cash and the flow that is coming back into Germany because they are trading with Iran. What they have to understand is that Germany has always stood against these human rights violations since 1945. The ghost of their past haunts them. And if they don't step up and recognize that the human rights violations by Syria and Iran, and they are joined at the hip, if they continue to trade, they are empowering Iran to funnel this chemical warfare and all the other violations against humanity that is going on in Syria. This has to come across that nuclear capability does not top your profits cannot top nuclear capability. They did not have a relationship with trade before, so why is it that they're going to resist now? I hope that the president can persuade her.
And speaking of nuclear capability, you're helping me flow this right along so quickly and smoothly. They also brought up the North Korean deal, the historic summit that declared the end of the 1950s Korean War. They are seeking complete denuclearization, and they're promising to pursue phased arm reduction, end hostile acts, turn the border into a peace zone, and seek multilateral talks with countries like the United States. This sounds so great on paper, but what is the likelihood and how realistic is this?
I like your word, but. In 2007, in October of 2007, there was an agreement between South Korea and North Korea on ensuring that they would reunite and stop the war. It never happened. Every agreement that North Korea has thrown at South Korea has fallen through the cracks. It's been a bait and switch. It has been a carrot and stick every single time. Let's be clear. Kim Jong-un agreed to stop his nuclear development because China got in his knickers for exploding a mountainside so graphically and so obscurely that it's now releasing the nuclear residue into China. So that's why he's agreed to stop, because China told him to. Remember, he got on a train and went over there. So why is he actually stopping his nuclear pursuits right now? Because China is telling him to. He's being strong-armed to. We have never seen, it is in their constitution. The Kim family is purely based upon, their power is purely based upon taking over South Korea. It's in their constitution. They are trying to take over the entire peninsula. So I'm a skeptic. We have to have means to be able to ensure that they're not pursuing their nuclear capability. This has been the one thing that has empowered Kim and the entire Kim family for generations.
And another thing, the president agreeing to sit down with Kim in the first place was hugely historic in and of itself. Even Lindsey Graham is saying that the president deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for this. But what are the chances of, this conversation between the president and President Kim, or dictator Kim, I should say, accomplishing anything that's beneficial to the world?
Well, what I'm nervous about is that South Korea is going to get all excited about this and start trade relationships with North Korea, which they had done in the past. And essentially, a lot of that money that went into North Korea that was supposed to help them with humanitarian reasons ended up fueling their military and nuclear capability. So I hope that we don't have a bait and switch going on. The South Korean president is to the left. He has largely resisted even us getting our capabilities in there to shoot down any nuclear missiles. So what we have to hope for is that the president stays strong, which I have no doubt President Trump will, and he has made it very clear to people that we have been taken advantage of by North Korea for generations. He has commented multiple times that he can't blame just President Obama. This goes back for many presidents, all the way back to Bill Clinton, and that includes the Bushes. So we have a big problem that has evolved now to a catastrophic level, and I expect that this president is going to mean what he says and says what he means, and he will pull the carpet out from under little Kim if he doesn't square himself away.
Yeah, if we've learned anything throughout Trump's presidency so far, it is that he has no problem standing his own. One more thing before we go.
Not at all.
One more thing before we go. On Capitol Hill, the House Intelligence Committee finally released their Russia report, and Republicans have concluded there's no collusion. Here's what Adam Schiff had to say. Roll tape.
The majority on the Intelligence Committee made the decision to prematurely shut down the Russia investigation. The only authorized investigation in the House of Representatives into what the Russians did in the last election, what the U.S. government response was, and the issue of any coordination or collusion with the Trump campaign. That was a terrible disservice to the country and the American people, and represented a reneging on the commitment that was made at the outset of the investigation to follow the facts wherever they lead.
Can hardly consider 2 years premature.
Yes, you know, Adam Schiff is full of what we call his last name. I find it very disgusting that he indicates that this is a disappointment. What? It's a disappointment that you couldn't dig up anything? It's a disappointment that there's no evidence? He has put his career on this, trying to enable himself for re-election and whatnot by raising hysteria and distrust among his colleagues along with his constituents. This has been the hill he will die on, and he cannot afford to do such. So, of course, he's disappointed that there was no evidence found. So he's now trying to raise another collusion. I guess I would have to ask Adam Schiff, are you going to investigate every Republican on the Hill for collusion with the colliders? It's absurd. We all know there's nothing. And I wouldn't be surprised if he comes up with his own counter memo and his counter argument, because that's all they have. They have a house of cards that has collapsed. And poor Adam Schiff, he is collapsing with it.
Exactly. And it's no surprise that the Democrats are accusing the Republicans of a premature ending to an investigation that lasted 2 years. We all saw it coming.
Right,
Jessie,
premature.
Thanks.